Hi guys, my name is Vicky and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. If you are new here, then I'm Vicky. I'm 27, almost 28. I am from Canada. I'm from the east coast of Canada, but I currently live in Toronto and I just spent 2 years living in London, England. So that's kind of what this whole video is going to be about. I'm actually going to do a whole series on moving abroad, living abroad, all the do's and don'ts, regrets, question and answer, all the things you kind of need to know before you go. Today is more going to be a view of everything you need to do before, during, and after your move to the UK. But it's also relevant to anyone who's moving anywhere, living abroad, moving abroad, just kind of some of the things that you need to think about when you're moving. I have my list in front of me, so if you see me looking down, I'm not ignoring you guys. I just want to make sure I don't forget anything. But before we hop into this video, I did just want to do a formal hello, hi, thank you for being here. If you are new here or if you haven't subscribed yet, then please think about doing that. I'm going to be doing a series, like I said, all about moving and living abroad, but I also do vlogs, lifestyle things, health, fitness, general, just vibes, nothing too serious. And I have lots of things coming up for the spring and summer. So yeah, also spring is here and I have taken out my most spring-like item in my closet for this video. So let's appreciate that for a moment. But yeah, I just wanted to get right into the video. I didn't want to do a long intro like I normally do because this video is meant to be for the people who want to know what you need to do before, during, and after you make the big move, living abroad. My experience is specific to moving from Canada to London, England, or the UK in general, but it can kind of be applied. A lot of the tips that I'm talking about can kind of be applied to any move abroad. So I hope you guys enjoy, I hope you like, and if you do like the video, please like it down below, hit that notification bell so you get notified when I post, and comment down below any other videos in this series that you would like to see. So without further ado, without me blabbing forever, because we know I have a tendency to do that, let's get into the video. Just so you guys know what to expect from the video, and I'm gonna try to do chapters so you can skip ahead if you're like not interested in certain parts, but I'm going to be going over kind of what you need to do before you go and the process of getting a visa. I'm gonna dive deeper into the actual visa process in a whole different video because it's like very extensive, but I'm just going to touch on that in the first part. And then in the second part, I'm going to talk about finding a place when you move to the UK, or like for me specifically London. It can be applied anywhere in the UK, and I feel like other places too, like anywhere in the Commonwealth. And then I'll be going over just a couple of things that you need when you get there, whether it's apps or like social media things or things to bring with you, just that type of thing. And then the fourth and fifth section will be about finding work and finding friends. So for me, I personally applied for the Tier 5 Youth Mobility Scheme visa. I think it used to be called the Tier 5 and now it's the YMS, or Youth Mobility Scheme visa. The Youth Mobility Scheme visa is for people within the Commonwealth who are between the ages of 18 and 30 or 18 and 35 depending on where you're from. And you have to have, I believe, £2,350 in your bank when you're applying to prove that you have enough to support yourself when you get over there. And it's a 2-year working visa. Every country has their own stipulations. Between Canada and the UK, I could apply for the visa, have it for 2 years. They actually just extended it so you could do it for 3 years. After you do the 2 years, you can apply for an extension. I didn't end up doing that, but I was eligible just as my visa was expiring. But like life things came up and I had to come back to Canada. I am sad to be gone. I'm just gonna preface this video by saying that I loved the UK, and if I could have stayed longer, I would have. And who knows, maybe I'll go back. Maybe someday I'll go back on a different visa or for a different reason, but for now I'm in Canada and I am happy to be here, but I do miss the UK. I miss London a lot. So anyway, like I was saying, I was on the Youth Mobility Scheme visa. I will link the Tier 5 visa information from the gov.uk website down below so you can read all about it, because obviously I don't want to miss anything, and if you guys are really interested in getting this, then that would be where you would go. That's where I went. I went just to the Government of UK website, looked up all of the stuff, did all my research, and went from there. But those are just the Coles notes. You need to be between the ages of 18 and 30 or 18 and 35, be from a eligible country, which is mostly within the Commonwealth, and have a certain amount of money in your bank account to prove that you can support yourself. And then you also have to pay for an application fee, you have to pay for your biometrics to get done, and a couple of other things as well. So we'll go over that. Now, I'm not going to go into every single part of the visa process because that would be way too long of a video, and I'll just do that separately. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you are interested in that, and do let me know down below if there's like anything specific you want to see in that video. But for now, I'll just go over what I did in order to like get the visa. So my interest sparked and I was planning on doing this big Europe trip. I didn't end up doing it because of COVID. And then instead of doing a Europe trip once COVID ended, I decided why not just move there? So started doing my research, found out about the Youth Mobility Scheme visa through a friend actually who was on it, which was really lucky. Asked her a couple of questions, so she gave me some good insight. And then I also used a company called Britbound. I'm sure there are lots of other companies like this. It's just people who help you go through the visa process. I don't know if they're specific to like the tier 5 visa or if they do all sorts of visas, but I'll also link them down below. It was, I believe, $100. Actually, no, it was like 90 something pounds. So that converted to like over $100 Canadian, obviously. But it was 100% worth it. It just felt like I had that extra support because I was doing everything else alone. So it was just making sure that I had all of my forms filled out correctly because I didn't want to submit them and then have them come back, say you missed this, you did this wrong, whatever. I just wanted to make sure that was done correctly. And they helped me once I got there, because when you get there, you have to, once you land in the UK, you have to pick up your biometric residency permit within a certain amount of days after you land in order for your visa to activate and like be real. And on the topic of the biometric residency permit, before that can actually be put into motion, you have to do a biometrics appointment. So you have to find a place near where you're living. For me, I actually had to fly out of the province and go to a different province to get an appointment because there was none open near me within like a period of time. And essentially they just scan your fingertips, scan your eyeballs, ask you some questions, you fill out some forms, and then that would be your biometrics done. If they all get approved. I haven't heard of anyone who has not been approved for this visa, so those are definitely some good odds, but you never know. You just want to make sure you do everything correctly and thoroughly because it's like a government process, right? You have to be interested in doing it. Be willing to spend money because it does cost a lot of money to apply for the visa, get the visa, do the biometrics appointment, and move to an entire new country. So have some money saved. You do also have to have a certain amount of money in your bank account, and it has to have been in there for, I believe, 30 days. So like you can't just have your parents transfer you this money 10 days before you apply for the visa or a day before you apply for the visa. Like it has to have been sitting there for a certain amount of time. I highly suggest having money saved because you do need to, you know, expect the unexpected and prepare for it to be more expensive than you're thinking, because it is going to be more expensive than you expect. I'm just saying. You need to be ready for that. London is expensive, moving is expensive. If you don't have a job before you get there, it's a long ass process. So just have some money saved. I don't suggest or encourage jigging the system. I think you should just have money saved. So that would be like a huge tip. Now we're gonna go over it. You need to be interested in moving. For me, it was the UK. Then you need to have a certain amount of money saved. You need to apply for the visa, make a biometrics appointment, go to that biometrics appointment, fly to the UK, and then pick up your biometric residency permit. You also have to, in order to do the biometrics and apply for the visa, you have to have an address in the UK, which I know sounds really twisted, but a lot of people will just use friends, family, someone they know, whatever. I didn't know a soul there, really, like not well enough for me to ask them to use their residence. I couldn't stay with anyone because I didn't know anyone, so I ended up booking a hotel for a week and using the hotel address, which is totally fine. So I used that hotel address. I booked my hotel before I applied, and then I used that address for the application, and then it'll just pick a post office that's closest to that address to pick up the residency permit there. So it's not like it's going directly to the address that you put in. It just is going to pick a post office nearest to that. And like I said, it can be an Airbnb, it can be a hotel. That's what I did, a hotel. And I also chose a hotel for the first week because I didn't have anywhere to live yet. So that was a gamble as well, but it all worked out. A couple of other points within the things to know before you go category before we move on, just like little things that you might not think about. I just wanted to mention, and things that definitely helped me, was number one, I ordered a UK SIM card to my Canadian address before I left, so that as soon as I got to the airport, I switched the SIM card, and then as soon as I landed in the UK, I had a UK number. That was super helpful for me so that I didn't have to like worry about being able to reach people as soon as I landed. I wanted to message my family and let them know that I got there safely. I wanted to be able to navigate things. So I had got a UK SIM card and purchased a plan. The thing about UK plans is that they're so much cheaper than Canadian ones. So I just ordered the SIM card, which cost me, I think, £1. Like it was essentially free to get it sent to you. And then that way I just had it in my possession. And this was a little fun thing. I actually met a friend through this because I had the SIM card. I actually went through gift gap. So again, I'll link that down below. They were totally fine. the service in some parts of London weren't great with like any service provider, but giffgaff did me well for the 2 years, and I don't have any complaints really. So anyway, when I was at the airport in Toronto on my way to London for the very first time, I'm moving, I don't know anyone, I'm like, holy shit, what am I doing? I have my SIM card in my hand thinking like, should I put this in now or should I put it when I land in London? Should I do it on the plane? Whatever. And I look up and there's a girl around my age with the same pamphlet that has the same SIM card in it. So I went up to her and asked her like what she was doing, if she was moving, like when I should put the SIM card in. And she was like, I have no idea. This is my first time too. And we were both moving to London on the same day. We were at the same airport, we were around the same age, and it was we were both on the same visa. And we were sat really close to each other on the plane, and we're still friends to this day. So that was a really cool way to make a friend. So you never know. But yeah, ordering the SIM card beforehand was super helpful. And just like one other thing you don't need to do when you get there, you know, because there's so many other things you're gonna have to do. And then another thing I did before I went there was join some Facebook groups. There's a Canadians in London Facebook group. There are like girls who travel abroad Facebook groups and kind of all of those things, and just a way for me to feel like, okay, this is going to be, there are like support groups for when I get there. There are ways for me to make friends, just like a way to ease your mind. And you'll see other people posting being like, hi, I'm so-and-so and this is me and I want friends, like let's go for a coffee when you're in London. And like lots of people did that. I don't know if I ever actually went for a coffee or like went on a friend date through a Facebook group, but lots of people do. Lots of people have like great things to say about doing that. So I definitely suggest like looking on Facebook, asking your friends, asking around, and joining some Facebook groups. And speaking of Facebook groups, that will lead us into the next one, because it's also really helpful to join groups to find places to live. So we'll get to that in the next section. But the last thing I wanted to mention about in this section of like before you go is just thinking about things that you want to handle before you leave the country, whether it's changing your address on your government account or freezing insurance, your car insurance, your health insurance, kind of like dealing with all those things. Don't leave that. Like definitely make that a priority. List those things off. Like for me, I needed to freeze my health insurance because I didn't want to be paying $180 a month while I was not in that country. And the thing about the Tier 5 Youth Mobility Scheme visa is that it includes a health surcharge. That's like one of the most expensive portions of it, but you're covered for health for the entire 2 years that you're there. For the entirety of your visa, you are covered health-wise. So that's really, like, that's a really nice thing to know, but I just didn't want to be paying double. I had to like transfer some car insurance stuff and just kind of think about those things. So they're like the not fun, the not sexy parts of moving, but don't forget about them because they are very important. Okay, now we move on to like a slightly more fun section, which is the finding a place to live. It's fun and stressful, I will say, for sure. So for me, I had all of my success on Spare Room. I moved twice while I was in London, so not that much. But I did all of my viewings virtually, and I have a really good judge of character, I will say that, but I also put a lot of faith in people. I could have easily, like you really have to trust your gut, trust the process, trust people, but trust yourself mainly. Like if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. And ideally you see the place in person first. But for me, it just wasn't possible. And I ended up, because I had that hotel for the first week, I was thinking like, I'll just go and like go ham for a week, finding places, looking at places, meeting up with people, whatever. But I just ended up getting lucky and finding a place right before I left. And then I couldn't move in until a week anyway. So I just spent the week in the hotel and then moved in. And I mainly lived in West or Southwest London while I was there. Not mainly, I did. But there are like so many other areas that I explored and that I loved in London. So again, I think I'm going to do a whole video about like best places to live and best places to visit when you go to London or when you're moving. So let me know down below if you're interested in that video. But for now, we're going to be talking about how to find a place. So I joined Spare Room, the app. I joined Mate's Place on Facebook and the app. And then I also joined some other Facebook groups that were posting, like the Canadians in London one. Sometimes people would post like a Canadian wanted to help out another Canadian and they had a room for rent, and it was usually a little bit cheaper than normal. The rental market is insane in London, kind of like it is everywhere at this time, you know, in this economy, but it is really expensive to live there. So again, be prepared to be shocked. But for me, it was unrealistic to think I could live alone. So I was looking for roommates. And I was looking for certain areas, and my stipulations were I wanted to be close to a tube or a bus station, and I wanted to be in a safe area, an area that I knew, like whether people had told me, I did my research, I looked it up, whatever. I wanted to feel safe, and I wanted to be never more than 10 minutes away from a bus or a tube station, just so that it was like easy to get to and from everywhere. Because in London, the transportation is amazing, but like if you're really far out, you're really far out. Like the friends that I made and the friends that I had there, like I was in Southwest London for most of my experience there, and one of my really good friends there was in East London. So it would take like at least an hour to get to her every single time we wanted to hang out. Like a lot of the time we would just meet in the middle and it would be fine. But London is huge. It takes a long time to get from one end of the city to the other. So also consider that if you already have a job, find a place that is near that job or has really good transportation links to that job if you have to go to the office. That's something really important to think about, because you don't think it's a big deal, you want to save some money, whatever, but then you end up spending so much time, so much money, so much effort on getting into the office or whatever. So location is really important. It was really important for me. And also, obviously, I needed to be able to afford it. So that meant roommates. I wanted to get along with the roommates. So there was a lot of FaceTimes and calls and actually WhatsApps. Everyone in the UK uses WhatsApp. So if you're coming from North America, download that app before you go. That's another thing I should say. Download WhatsApp and get your number on there. I will link any like important resources down below, but I found both of the places that I lived through Spare Room. I did both viewings virtually and just got to know the people over the phone. So it is possible, and there are good people out there still. Ideally, you see the place and you meet the people or person in person first. That just wasn't the case for me, but even if you are there already and you're staying in an Airbnb or you're staying with a friend until you find a place, Spare Room for sure is like the #1 place to find a room for rent. A lot of people, if you're looking for like a place to rent on your own or with a partner, they'll usually use Rightmove is the main thing that I heard. I was in no position to be renting a place like on my own or like with someone. So I was just doing the room for rent, and Spare Room was really great. Mate's Place again is also really good, but it's like based on your connections on things like Facebook, and it'll show you like first degree connections and then second and third, and it'll show places that other people are posting. So it's kind of a good way to do it as well. I messaged a lot of people through that and I had some viewings and everything. It just so happens that the 2 places that I moved into were from Spare Room. So that's the one that I most recommend because it worked for me. Okay, so now that you have applied for your visa, done your biometrics appointment, your visa's been approved, you got your letter back, you're all excited, you found a place to live, your flights are booked, and you have a place to stay when you get over there, whether it's the place that you've found to live or a temporary place until you find a place to live, you're going to live abroad. How exciting. Now we're just going to talk about some of the things that you might not think about, or things that just tips that I have of things that you need before you get there or when you get there. Luckily, a lot of the places in the UK at least are furnished. Every place that I rented was furnished. Like every place that I was looking at to rent, especially if you're renting a room, it will be furnished, which means like it has a bed, a side table, a dresser, all of those things. Like you don't need to get the big pieces of furniture. Both of my places also had mattresses, which like kind of creeps me out, but I wasn't really in a position to be buying a new mattress for myself every time I moved. So, you know, that just meant deep cleaning, buying mattress protectors, and kind of making sure that I was layers, kind of like Princess and the Pea vibes. I was layers away from that original mattress with all the things that I was adding to it. But if you're not like me and you don't care about that stuff, then that's extra great. I did want to like get my own bedding and all of that. So as soon as I landed, those were like the main things that I wanted to pick up: my biometrics residency permit and bedding, because those were the 2 things that I just needed in order to get through my first night. I also got some cleaning supplies because you just never know. And there have been some horror stories, and you can probably see them on social media as well. There's lots of times that people have been screwed over by a landlord or a person posting, especially if you're doing it virtually like I did, and you see the pictures and it's not quite the same in person. So bedding to sleep with and cleaning supplies were the first things that I purchased for my first night there. I also wanted to go over just a couple of apps that you should probably download before you go. For me, the 2 main ones were, like I said, WhatsApp, and I also connected my WhatsApp to my Canadian phone number first before I got the UK SIM card so that I could use that to message recruiters or have that number there for people like because I was also actively applying for jobs before I moved. So I added that WhatsApp number to my resume so that people could contact me that way. WhatsApp was like the first app that I downloaded before I moved to London because that's what everyone was saying, everyone was using. It was the best way to communicate with people, and that's definitely the case. Like anytime I met anyone there, or someone asked for my number or whatever, it was always WhatsApp or Instagram. But WhatsApp is like the main way to communicate because there's people from all over the world in that place, and they all use different platforms and different phones and different operating systems. So WhatsApp is one of the first apps you should be downloading if you're thinking about moving abroad. And I definitely think it applies as well to like Australia, New Zealand, anything like that. So WhatsApp and citymapper. I would not have survived without citymapper. Yes, you have Google Maps. Yes, you have Apple Maps, but citymapper is specific to transit. It'll tell you the quickest way. It'll tell you the cheapest way to get from point A to point B. And a lot of the time you can choose like a safer way, because I find sometimes I would choose, like if I'm walking, for example, pick a route through Google Maps or Apple Maps, and it would take me down these like sketchy alleyways. And I'm like, I'm new to the city. I'm a woman. I'm walking alone at night, which I didn't do very often, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And I'm like, I do not want to be down this creepy ass alley by myself. So with citymapper, you can choose main roads. I don't believe it's called like safest option, but I think you can choose main roads only. And that way, if it's like a route that you're choosing that has like buses, tubes, and walking included, it will keep you on main roads when you're walking so that you don't go through any shortcuts. Because some of these shortcuts, I'm like, number one, are they even quicker? And number two, it's not worth me feeling unsafe. So safety is clearly very important, and it should be to anyone, but it was very important to me. I wanted to make sure I felt safe when I moved there because I was moving there alone. I didn't know anyone and I didn't know the city, so safety was huge for me. So citymapper was super helpful, and it's also just super helpful in like, sometimes I would expect, like you start getting used to it, you're like, oh, I'll take this tube or take this bus line, and then I would check it in the morning and it would be like, oh, there's a strike on this tube line, or there's an accident and this bus is going to take 30 minutes longer than you were expecting. So it's always good to check it, even if you know your routes. I checked it every single day that I was going somewhere because I wanted to just make sure that that was like the best route to be taking. So citymapper was a lifesaver. That was like my number one thing. And in terms of apps, something that you might find when you're doing research, especially when it comes to the UK, you might think you need an Oyster card, but you don't. So you don't need to get the Oyster app. I mean, unless you're doing the whole rail card situation, that's something you can explore once you get there and you kind of figure out what you want to do and you're starting to navigate, but you don't need an Oyster card. You just tap in and tap out. On the tube, you tap in and you tap out. On the bus, you tap in, you don't tap out. I remember the first time I got on a bus in London, I was alone. I tapped in and I was like, oh my God, this is a bus, this isn't a tube. Do I tap out? Like, do I go to the front and tap out? I was like, I feel like that doesn't make any sense. And I was like panicking in my head. I'm like, hey, I need to Google this and make sure so I don't embarrass myself. I need to Google this. So I'm like panic Googling, do I need to tap out on London buses? And it was like, thank God there was a forum, and I was like, no. So I saved that embarrassment for myself. But on the tube and on the trains, like overground, all of that, you need to tap in and tap out so that it can map your journey and charge you accordingly. On the bus, you just tap in. You don't have to tap out, so don't embarrass yourself. And if you do embarrass yourself, it's okay. You know what? When I moved to London, this is off topic, but when I moved to London, never have I ever seen so many faceplants in my entire life. The streets are so uneven. Everyone's in a rush. No one's looking down. No one's paying attention to anything. And I saw so many people faceplant. I came close so many times. Thank God I didn't. Oh my God, I don't know if I could handle or recover from that embarrassment. But all that to say is people embarrass themselves and it's not a big deal. I'm just saying, if you can avoid it, it's obviously nice. But there's lots of embarrassing moments that you're gonna have when you move to a new city and you're navigating things. So kind of have to leave your ego at the door when you're moving to a new country. A new city, a new country, a new continent, anything. Just know that it's going to be exciting and fun and scary and lonely and embarrassing and awesome and amazing and sad and all of the things. It's literally going to be every single emotion wrapped into one. I cried every single day for like my first 2 months, and I'm not a crier. So I'm just saying you have to prepare yourself for kind of everything. It was incredible and amazing, and I don't regret it for a second, but there was also so many times where I felt lonely or sad or scared. I actually don't think I've ever truly felt lonely until I moved there. And it was enlightening. The whole entire experience was incredible. I can't recommend it enough. I cannot recommend getting out of where you're from and moving somewhere new and experiencing different cultures or different people or different lifestyles. Like it doesn't have to be what I did and moving to a whole new country by yourself with no one. Like that's kind of extreme. But I just think making a move, if you're doing this and you're thinking about doing this, I just want to say that I am very proud of you and I'm really excited for you. And if you want to know anything else that I didn't mention in this video or that isn't coming up, please DM me, please reach out to me. I am an open book. I will tell you anything, and I am just really proud of you. And it's a really big move. So congratulations if you are doing it or even thinking about it. It's an incredible thing to do. Okay, now that tangent's done, we're gonna move on to the final two sections. So quickly, I'm just going to go over some of the tips I had for finding work when I moved to London, and then some of the tips that I have for finding friends when you're moving to a new city. And then we'll wrap up the video, and like I said, I'll do a more extensive video on some of the other tips, but I just wanted to do an overview for this one. Just all the little things, everything you need to know before you go. So for me specifically, being someone from Canada who has a degree in business, worked in marketing and communications, and was looking for a job in those fields, I found the process a little bit different than Canada. It's definitely a little bit longer of a process. There's a lot of interviews, a lot of like screenings, and a lot of expectations. And I kind of think that like Canada is getting there as well in terms of like the expectations people have for job interviews and what you're going to do. Like the free labor that some of these jobs and some of these roles are expecting is actually kind of insane to me, and always will be. Like some of the stuff, like I had presentations that I had to do for certain jobs. This was like hours and hours of stressing and working and research and putting presentations together and then doing the presentations and going through all of those motions to potentially not even get the job. Like obviously you have to put in work. Getting a job is hard work and you have to be willing to put in the work, but some of the expectations I'm like, oh, okie dokie. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I just wanted to give you a couple tips on actually finding a job when you get over there and setting your expectations. It takes a long time. I had 2 different jobs when I moved to London because I moved there, spent a certain period of time in London, came back to Canada for a couple months, went back and did the entire process again, like the house hunting and the job hunting and all of that. So I kind of did it twice. So I have a little bit more experience doing that. And I found both of my roles through LinkedIn, which was really great and very lucky. And both of my roles took me about a month and a half to 2 months to find, secure, and start. So budget that in, be prepared that it's going to take at least a month to 2 months to applying for the job, securing the interview, doing the whole interview process, getting an offer, and starting the job. It could be 2 or 3 months from like beginning to end, from the actual application start, right? Because sometimes it takes like 2 weeks for recruiters to even look through resumes and reach out to you. So just prepare, whether you're applying before you go or waiting to get until you get there to apply for jobs. Just be prepared that it will take a while to actually land the job and start working. If you have a job before you go, then lucky you, that's amazing. You don't need to listen to this section, and that's awesome. That would have been really great. That was not my reality. So I want to set those expectations. Month, 2 months, even 3 months before you can actually be starting the job. So just prepare for that. And then in terms of tips on finding a job, in the UK, they use a lot of recruiters, and I don't find that's the case as much in Canada. So that was kind of new and a little bit foreign to me. But reach out to recruiters. Anytime I was interested in a job and went through the application process and I saw on LinkedIn, like, so-and-so has posted this job or so-and-so is a recruiter for this position, I would reach out to them and say, hi, my name is Vicky. I applied for this role. I'm really interested. Like, let me know if you have time to chat. And then sometimes they would reach out and say, yeah, like, let's have a call. Or it would kind of flag your name, and I feel like you're more likely to actually get flagged for a screening call, because every single job you have is going to have a screening call to see if you're even a good fit before you actually go through the real interview process. So it's a long, arduous process, but it is worth it, obviously, to find a role. And like I said, both of my roles were found on LinkedIn through grit and determination and reaching out to people, and obviously doing the job application. Again, I'm going to do an entire video on looking for work. I just don't have the time in this video, every single thing that goes into the job application process, but I'll do an entire other video on that, whether it's London specific or just finding a job or landing your dream job in general, because I have done many a job interview, even more applications. I have lots of tips and tricks. I've met lots of people in the HR industries along the way. So I have lots of tips and tricks on that. So I'll do an entire other video on that, but I just wanted to say that LinkedIn was my best friend when it came to applying for jobs in London. Use your network to your advantage, reach out to people. I reached out to people and they gave me, whether it was like them putting a good word in for me or them just letting me know, oh, I heard this company is hiring, or I heard this company is good to work for. Just kind of reaching out to the people you know, or even like people you don't really know very well. The worst thing that's going to happen is that they don't answer you. The worst thing that's going to happen is this recruiter doesn't respond to you, or this person that you kind of know doesn't respond to you. Not the end of the world. You move on. You get back up and you try again. So a big thing that I would say is to use your network and reach out to people, and don't be afraid to reach out, even if you don't know them. It's worth it. It's worth a try. Like I said, the worst thing that's going to happen is they don't respond to you, and that's really not the end of the world in the grand scheme of things. Okay, now you have your visa, you've moved to London, you've found a place to live, you're doing your job applications, you're in the process of finding a job, you want some friends. Let's talk about it. Finding friends as an adult is really hard. I find, if you're moving to a new country or a new city or a new place to go to school, it's a little bit easier to make friends because you're joining other people who have the same interests as you, and you're kind of forced into friendship, which is great a lot of the time. Like, I've met some of my best friends through university, but me how old was I when I moved? Me moving to an entirely new country as a 25-year-old who was already finished school and was planning on, just moving to a new country and trying to find friends the old-fashioned way and the new-fashioned way, I couldn't rely on something like school to make friends. So there's a lot of different things. There's so many different ways that you can make friends. Especially in a city like London, there are so many opportunities to make new friends. Like I said, I made my first friend the first hour that I was moving because I went up to her at the airport and asked her about the SIM card, and we became fast friends. We're still friends. So that was just like a little fun moment for us. And obviously we were both Canadian. So anytime we told anyone that story when we got there, they were like, oh my God, that's so cute. I'm like, you know what? It is kind of cute. We're kind of cute for that. But anyway, so that was a fluke. I got lucky, but you have to put yourself out there. If you're moving to a new place, you have to be okay with putting yourself out there. You are not going to make friends if you don't. And you, like I said earlier in the video, you have to leave your ego at the door. That was tough for me. And you really, really have to be okay with rejection, whether it's dating, friendship, jobs. You're gonna face a lot of rejection and it's gonna suck, but it also, character building really helps you grow. I have never gained more confidence, and I don't think I ever will, from a single action of mine than moving to a new country and just doing that all alone and trusting my gut, trusting my decision-making skills, putting myself out there. Like, yes, I got turned down a couple of times. I went on friend dates that didn't end up going anywhere. I went on dates that didn't end up going on anywhere. But I have just never put myself out there like I did when I went there. And I started making decisions and telling myself I was going to do things and then doing them. And then the more you do that, the more confidence you gain. So it was just such an amazing experience, and making friends can be really tough. But all I can say is you need to be okay with putting yourself out there, and you need to be okay with rejection, because again, the worst thing that's going to happen is this friend that you're trying to make or this person you're trying to see doesn't want to be friends with you, or, has other friends and they don't have time for you. That's okay. It's not worth it. They don't deserve your time anyway. It's just got to be an onward and upward attitude. You need to be okay with that, because everything, in my opinion, most things happen for a reason. So just trust the process and put yourself out there and believe in yourself. I know this is so cheesy, but it's just so true. And some people just might need to hear it, because I went on lots of dates that didn't go anywhere. I went on I used bumblebff. I used the app Thursday, which was mainly for dating. It's like a dating app, but like every Thursday they have an event, and everyone who goes there is just kind of interested in seeing people, and they're open to meeting people, which is really great because I've met friends that way as well. Like, I met some girls at some of the events where the guys were kind of weird, and we were like, what's going on? This is a weird event. And then we made some friends that way. Still follow some of them on Instagram, still keep up with some of them. So, dating events can also be a way to make friends. I made like guy friends that didn't turn out romantically. I ended up dating someone from these Thursday events for it was on and off, but it was like 8 months. So there's lots of opportunities, especially, like I said, in a city like London, there's just always something going on. And I used Bumble BFF, so I went on a couple friend dates. I used an app that I had never heard of, so I actually saw it on TikTok. A lot of this I found online, and it was all like in-person things. But joining clubs, I joined a walking club, like Hot Girl Walks, and it was amazing. I made some of my really good friends through that. One of my friends is Scottish, and she is actually moving to New York soon, which is really exciting because now we're both going to be on the East Coast in North America. So I made a friend in London. She's from Scotland. I'm from Canada, and now we're going to see each other in North America, which is so exciting. You never know what's going to happen. You never know who you're going to meet along the way. It's just a really, really exciting process. And if you're thinking about doing this, I'm very, very excited for you. And I just wish I could do it all again for the first time. So I'm jealous as well. Okay, so what we have so far is Bumble BFF, Thursday, and I used TikTok and Instagram, and an app called Clyx. I didn't use it a lot after this one experience, but I used it in order to join the hot girl walks that I went to, and I made lots of girlfriends. That was so amazing. And I think that they're continuing to grow, and they have like other events going on in different cities. I know that they're in Miami, I know they're in London, obviously, I know they're in New York. And it's just kind of like an app that has different events that are going on, and people can join it and you can go, and then it just feels like you're not so alone. And you might make friends, you might not, you might just have an excuse to like go out and do something and not be alone doing it. So that was really great, and a really cool opportunity to make a couple girlfriends. I think a lot of it is female based, but it might be expanding, I'm not sure. And then social media apps. So I was using Instagram to reach out to people, or like finding groups or different events or things going on. There's like so many Facebook and Instagram groups of like girls who run like running clubs, like events for things. There's just like so many new and different ways to make friends, but definitely lean into social media if you have it and if you use it, and use your network. Like I made a lot of my friends that I had when I first got over there through other friends who knew other people there. So like one of my best friends was like, oh, I know this girl who lives in London. You've never met her, but you guys would so get along. You should reach out to her when you land. Did that, reached out to her, and we're still friends. We're still really good friends. We did so many things together. We went to concerts together. Use your network and, you know, ask your friends in these cities if they know anyone else who lives in other cities. And like I said, don't be afraid to reach out. Just like met so many people that way, just through friends of friends. So if you have anyone, like if you're moving to a new city and you know people who know other people who live there, definitely reach out, because it's worth it. And it's just another way. And especially if you have that mutual connection, you're like, well, I love them, so I know I'm probably gonna like the person that they're telling me to meet up with. So that's like a really nice way too. And it feels a little bit less scary than some of the other things I mentioned, like going on a bumblebff date, or going to like showing up to an event by yourself where you're supposed to be making friends. I know if someone has like social anxiety, that might not be something that they would want to try, but you know, if you try some of these other things and you make friends through that, then you can do some of these other things that feel a bit more scary with someone else. My top tips for making friends, if we're gonna sum up this section, is leaving your ego at the door, being okay with rejection, and putting yourself out there. Just trying it, doing the damn thing, as they say, and joining all of the apps and all of the groups and saying yes. When you first get there, you have to say yes to everything. I landed, I had such bad jet lag, and I went to a bottomless brunch like 12 hours after I landed in London. It was chaotic, but I met some really cool people that way. So just kind of say yes to everything. You know, have some boundaries. There's only so much you can do, but try to say yes to as many things as possible, because you just don't know what's gonna present itself to you. So put yourself out there, do it. I'm proud of you. You got this. You can make friends, and you will. Okay. That was a lot of information. That was a lot of me talking. I am definitely tired of hearing my own voice. So we're gonna wrap up the video here. I just want to thank you guys so much. If you are still watching, or if you enjoyed this video, thank you so much for being here. If you did like it, like I said earlier in the video, please subscribe. Please hit that notification bell so you get notified when I post other videos. There will be other videos in this series about the visa process, about getting a job when you move abroad, all of those things. So stay tuned for those. But thank you guys so much for watching this one. I hope you enjoy. Maybe in the future I'll do a part 2, maybe a little Q&A. I can ask you guys some of the things you want to know, maybe some of the things I didn't touch on or I missed out, or you know, you just want to know more in-depth information about some of the things I mentioned. That is definitely a possibility, so let me know if you guys are interested in that, and I can do a poll for a little Q&A. But speaking of that, follow me on Instagram and TikTok so you can follow along with me a little bit more real time, and hopefully I'll be doing some more short form videos on things about living and moving abroad, but also just my regular everyday life. I'm just chilling. I'm just working and living my life. So I really hope you guys enjoyed. I really hope you subscribe if you did, and I'll see you in the next video. Love you so much.